Do you like me? Yes or no? Choose one. Sound familiar? You've either written one of these notes, gotten one of these notes, or wished that one found its way to your desk before a 3 o'clock bell rang. After being a classroom teacher of 20 years, I've discovered the more things change, the more they stay the same. Sometimes these notes are digital. But I prefer paper and pencil. But I'm old school. We all want to be liked. I'd go so far as to say we have a need for it. Some people think that being liked is the natural first step to being loved. And even if this is true, we also know it's possible to love someone and not like them very much. Even before the widespread acceptance of social media onlookers as friends, we realized the phenomenon of having someone else like us is impossible to create alone. In this way, we all serve as a validating institution for one another. I can remember being an undergraduate student right here at UAB. My favorite part of registering for classes was getting my student ID validated. Having the registrar put that sticker on the back of that piece of plastic was the university's way of saying, you're okay. Whether we know it or not, we're all putting stickers on each other, some of validation and some of invalidation. I was once cornered in my classroom by a couple of students that thought they had figured out who my favorite student was. Now, we all know that teachers aren't supposed to have students as pets, but students are people. And I do like some people more than I like other people. And I was curious to know what they thought. To my surprise, they made a surprisingly convincing argument. I mean, the characteristics that they listed had to be the characteristic of somebody's favorite student. But the entire time I was listening to them, all I kept thinking was, how am I going to prove them wrong? Well, as soon as they finished, I only partially conceded. I told them that you're all my favorite student, just not at the same time. They didn't believe me either. I then proceeded to remind each student the particular moment that school year that they earned the title of being my favorite student. I remember having a student, Jack, on the first day of school. He said, if you're really still, you can actually feel the earth turning. I've done it before. At that moment, he became my favorite student. Now, Jack had somewhat of a nervous habit, and he often found himself tapping on his desk. Once, for indoor recess, he decided he would form his own band called The Desk. And later that year, in the spring talent show, when the entire class either playing a kickball, a recorder, or rapping with Jack, all of them became my favorite student. I remember once Kaiser defined imagination as the spark for an idea. Now, upon hearing this, Ty Sisson actually says, I think that's the purpose of school, for us to collect the sparks for the fires we want to have burning later in life. And at that moment, they both became my favorite students. Ty actually is working on a website called The Writing Sighting to collect great ideas from other students. I remember giving my class a writing assignment once. Write about what you want to be when you grow up. Many of us have had this assignment before, and I reminded my students, don't be worried if you change your mind. When I was your age, I actually wanted to teach kids how to ride bikes. And when my students heard this, they said, what a great idea. Can I help? I couldn't help but wonder, where would I be if these students were my classmates back then? I learned two things in that moment. As long as I'm learning with them, they are my classmates. And having a group of people like my idea felt as good as having a group of people like me. I also learned that you can't major in teaching kids how to ride bikes, so I just decided to teach kids. About 6 years ago, I had a student named Joshua that discovered video editing software on the computer, and he decided, I'm going to make a movie. And I told him, you got to write a script first, and if you write a script, I'll actually help you make your movie. Well, about a week later, I thought I had discouraged Joshua until he combined a student's gift with the ability to write notes and a director's need to do casting calls. He had written his script on small sheets of paper and distributed them to his classmates. Now, these classmates agreeing to be in his film were validating him as being a filmmaker, and me helping him make it was validating him too. 6 years later, Joshua still makes films today. Intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or unconsciously, you are affecting how someone feels about themselves. And we all need to be more intentional about it. Many of the great ideas and invention by people on this planet came from people that knew they were more than just a collection of bad ideas. Be brave enough to share yourself with the world by sharing your ideas with others. And if you were fortunate enough to have someone share their idea with you, just know they probably thought it was a pretty good idea before they shared it. They might just be seeking a little validation. It's easier to share ideas if you think you might have some worth spreading. So if you are a teacher, a parent, a sibling, a friend, a person, know that you are a validating institution. And it is important to all of us to know what I think matters. If not to everyone, to someone. Thank you.